market for your first car, you're probably looking at a small subcompact sedan, an established hatchback, or a subcompact SUV if you do have a bit of money to spend. But now there is a new option with what is arguably the first micro SUV in India, the new Tata Punch. But is it a viable alternate to the established players? Welcome then to a special 3-part series where I take the Punch up against 3 cars across 3 segments, and we start off with the benchmark today in the sub 4 meter sedan segment, the Honda Amaze. So both of these will look good in your society parking spot, and although both are as different as chalk and cheese, both have a sense of premiumness and both look current and modern. Now, while looks are subjective, I believe our Indian society has come to a point, sadly, where the SUV will always be looked at in a more premium way as compared to a sedan, and therefore if social mileage is what you desire, you are better off with the Punch. However, the Amaze grows on you really nicely because it is a handsome compact sedan. Now, even more so than its pre-facelift avatar, especially in this top spec trim with all that chrome. But in a downright fight for design, I personally would have the Punch, especially in the color we had for our very first drive. It's insane how much an entry-level car like these two pack today in terms of tech. Touchscreens are expected, so is Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, a reverse parking camera, automatic climate control. Well, you know the drill. Basically everything you need in your daily driver to make your life easy is what these two get. What you do get, however, in the Punch is a little bit more space in the rear, and also those doors that open at 90 degrees might look like a gimmick at first, but if you have older passengers getting in the back of your car or in the passenger seat or even in the driver's seat, it is actually really helpful to them. Again, both seem equally matched with the Punch inching just slightly ahead. However, the Amaze claws that back with the fact that it has LED headlights and fog lights, and things like these may not matter to you and me and a whole bunch of people, but again, to some people, this is social currency because our car has white lights, your car has yellow ones. Stuff like this just seems to matter in some circles. Every car engine undergoes a lot of stress in city driving, particularly during warm-up and in stop-start conditions, whether it is due to traffic or short trips. Ordinary car oils may not be enough to protect your car engine, and that is why we recommend fully synthetic Castrol magnetic stop-start for non-stop protection. So let's talk about performance. Now, until a few years ago, as an auto journalist, this would be right on top of my list. But more and more, this is becoming less and less important for buyers because priorities do seem to change. And of course, as EVs come into play and cars get really quick, it doesn't really seem to matter to anyone anymore in any case. That said, for now, it does matter. And when you do compare the Punch to other cars, that's what the Punch's Achilles heel is. And which is why I found myself in the Amaze, because that's not the Achilles heel of the Amaze. In fact, the Amaze with its petrol iVTEC engine is a really fun car to drive. It still is fun. Honda still does petrol engines really well. And even when mated to a CVT gearbox, which isn't by any stretch of imagination an enthusiast gearbox, you do seem to have a whole bunch of fun driving it around, especially because it is so smooth in traffic. It's just easy peasy to drive. But if you do want to have a little bit more fun, you can always tug on that paddle shifter and go a little bit quicker, and it sort of rewards you a little bit more. But as I mentioned, Achilles heel, Punch, performance, it just isn't enough. That engine is lethargic, and even the AMT gearbox, which is, well, the least of the two or the worst of the two in terms of being an enthusiast driven gearbox, but is a better gearbox overall because it matches the engine better, is still slow because of course AMT tech is overall going to be slower than almost any other automatic gearbox out there. So if you want to buy a car for purely performance, then maybe the Punch isn't the way to go about it. but for a whole bunch more, maybe it is. Okay, so now that we have talked about performance in relative terms between the Punch and the Amaze, or between the Punch and in general other cars, I think it's time to talk about something that is often overlooked while buying a brand new car. That is ride comfort. Now, in the past, ride comfort was something that was grossly overlooked, especially because, well, people sometimes just didn't care, or they compromised a little bit, or they really didn't bother much about having a more comfortable car as compared to some of the rivals. But now that people are spending more and more time in their car, especially now with the advent of COVID-19 and people having road trips sort of come back into fashion, ride comfort is more important both on the highway and in the city. And if you are talking about ride comfort, I think Tata Motors pretty much ticks every box imaginable in this category. I mean, the Punch is, and we've said this in the review, and I'm repeating this again right here because it is true, the Punch is the best riding car under 10 lakh rupees. Period. You cannot get a more comfortable car under 10 lakh rupees. It rides really well, it absorbs all the bumps you can throw at it well. It isn't crashy, it isn't uncomfortable by any means. It is genuinely a great chassis that Tata Motors has pioneered and has perfected on this car. And that's important because a lot of people do want a more comfortable car. A lot of people want to be more comfortable and just sort of not be absolutely knackered and tired at the end of their journey. Now, that doesn't mean that the other car here in comparison is uncomfortable. It just means this is better. This is the benchmark. So let's wrap up this quick comparison video with a simple score. In terms of being more up to date, the Punch definitely has it in terms of design, and it has more space on the insides. Both are very similarly matched in terms of tech, and they each have their drive benefits, with the Punch being a lot more comfortable and the Amaze being a lot more responsive. So it's an almost draw, but that's not what we do here at PowerDrift. We give you a verdict, so here is ours. If you're a more adventurous or a more modern or a more evolved car buyer, get the Punch. It's the one you want to have. It's the one you want to be seen in. And if you're a more conventional car buyer, you'd want the Amaze. Well, but that's where you need to shake off that convention and check out the Punch too. Not only do I think that it is a slightly better car, but the price advantage actually seals the deal. So, Punch versus Amaze, it's the Punch that gets it. Onwards then to more competition.